against people who write a lot of books. Because, you know, that's why I never went on the Letterman show. Because I knew I would come out and he'd say, oh, you wrote 200 books? How good could those be? 200 books. And I think there's a real feeling of, you know, if you're very prolific. Joyce Carol Oates.
I was just thinking the same thing. I said, they don't go after Joyce Carol Oates.
Yes, they do.
Oh, they
because,
do.
yeah, any review of a Joyce Carol Oates, she's written a lot of books. She's very prolific. You cannot read a review of her books without them mentioning, oh, she's written so many books. You can't.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, that's exactly
and
the same author I
And there is a feeling that genre writing isn't like real literature, But I don't care. I mean, you write to entertain people.
Right, and it's phenomenal storytelling, not anyone
People love thrillers and mystery. Look at the bestseller list. It's mostly thrillers and mysteries. People love them.
So
I'm in this organization called the International Thriller Writers. And we have a Thriller Writers Convention every summer in New York. 400 thriller writers in one room.
Wow.
It's pretty scary, right? And we all we have panel discussions, we have a big banquet, and all the panel discussions are, what's the difference between a thriller and a mystery?
We used to,
and that's all we talk about endlessly. Of course,
what is the difference?
It's ridiculous. What? Yeah, what is the difference? Well, I was just on a panel with Sandra Brown and Steve Barry the other night, and someone said, well, what's the difference between a thriller and a mystery? And Steve said, about $100,000. That's the best answer.
That's actually probably the answer.
That's the best answer I ever heard.
Now, you're writing books all the time, and you travel around. What is your dream vacation? When you can just get away from all of it, what is it that you love to do?
I take a lot of vacations. But, you know, I love to write, and it's very hard for me to go very long. Someone asked me, how long can you go without writing? And I said, 10 days maybe 2 weeks. And he said, well, you see, it's an addiction. It's a disease. It's an addiction. And I never thought of it that way, but I think that's true. I take a lot of beach vacations. I like to just lie on the beach and read and snorkel and that. And I love big, crazy places. I'm sort of like I love Disney World. I'd love to live in Disney World.
So would I.
I'd like to live there. I love that kind of thing. We go to Atlantis a lot. Have you ever been to Atlantis?
I've been to Atlantis. That's
huge, crazy 5,000 people. I love that. I love that. But we travel a lot. I've been so lucky with Goosebumps and everything. I've had some amazing trips because of it. Just wonderful things I never would have done. We had a wonderful book tour in Australia and got to snorkel on the Barrier Reef and hang out in Sydney for a while. And then recently I did a 5-city book tour in China. That was just amazing. All these the Chinese kids are all beautiful. The kids are all beautiful. I don't know what they do with the ugly ones. Maybe, I don't know, maybe they send them to Taiwan or something.
They don't let them come to book autograph.
Oh my God. And they love reading, they love books. There were thousands. You go to the bookstores, you would love this. The bookstores, this one bookstore in Shanghai, I'm not exaggerating, the size of a Walmart.
Oh my God.
And it was a bookstore. And it was filled with people reading. Filled. They love it. Oh, I had the best time in China.
How long have your books been translated over there?
This is a new Mandarin edition. And Goosebumps is really popular there now. So it's nice.
Whole new audiences over and over again for you.
And the kids were all great, and they lined up in the bookstore, and they wanted to show off their English, and they all came up to me and said, how do you do? Where do you get your ideas? Every kid. Where do you get your ideas?
By the end, you knew Chinese.
Oh my God! And they were, and then I turned to the woman from the Chinese publisher, and I said, "If one more kid asks me where I get my ideas, I'm going to kill myself." And then some kids came by and talked, and then another kid asked a question in Chinese, and she turned to me and she said, "Go kill yourself."
I don't even want to translate it for you.
Yeah.
So you describe writing as an addiction. You can't be away from it. If you could have picked another addiction, if they said to you, you can't be a great storyteller, you can't be a great writer, what would the addiction, would it have been music? Would it have been languages? What great addiction would you have picked?
I don't know. This is all I've ever done since I was 9 years old. 9 years old, I'm in my room typing. I was a weird kid, I guess. But I don't know what people always say, well, what else would you do? And I don't have a clue, really. I always say, well, I'd love to be a seal in the Central Park Zoo. Seriously, because they get to swim, they swim all day, and people throw fish to them. They just get fish, they get fish, and they swim.
It's a beautiful place, the zoo.
It's nice, people like them.
Well,
That would be, but otherwise, I don't know what I would do.
I think that's a sign of a pretty happy person who can't
Yes.
even imagine wanting to do
I'm
anything
happy
else.
and I'm, very lucky person.
So, of course, I'm not going to ask you where you get your ideas from because I wouldn't do that to you. But if you had to give one piece of advice to a child, and I'm sure you've done this over and over again, who says, I want to be a writer.
Yeah, I never give them advice.
Never give them advice.
No, because if you're like me, if you're a kid and you're writing and writing, you know you want to be a writer. And you know you're going to write. And you're going to write, and you're going to read a lot, and read, and you know it. You just know it. There's people who become writers like that, they know it, and they don't need advice from me. So I never tell them anything.
Just tell them to read.
Yeah. Once I was on this news station, this news show, a Sunday morning in Philadelphia, and I figured no one was watching. And the newswoman, she said, well, what advice do you have for young people who want to be writers? And I said, we have all the writers we need. I said, why? We have more than enough. We don't need any new writers.
Go be something else.
Yeah. And
get a lot of letters on that one?
Well, she kind of looked at me, and she asked me again. She said, no, really, what advice would you give? I said, no, we don't need anyone. It turned out that she had a children's manuscript that she wanted to sell. She wanted to be a writer.
Do you give advice to adults who want to be writers?
No one asks me.
No one asks.
No one asks.
You and I share another great passion, which I was delighted to discover, the
Yes.
P.G. Wodehouse.
Yes, right.
And I think you said it in either an interview or on your website that he is among your favorite
No,
authors.
but that's very bad for my horror image. I have to say somebody scary.
Somebody
People
scary?
ask. But yeah, P.G. Wodehouse is by far my favorite. I've read he lived to be 92, and he wrote 92 novels, all exactly the same.
Exactly,
I love
exactly.
that. I love that, and I think I've read them all.
And I've read them all, and I've read several of them. You know, when I'm under the weather, read them over again to just keep your
Well, I have no
spirits up.
memory, luckily, so I can go back and read them again because I don't remember anything. It's great. It's a great thing.
So is that a
And-
good piece of advice we can give everybody? They need to go out and read a little Wodehouse?
Well, it's just, the books are hilarious, and the language is amazing. He really was sort of the Shakespeare of comedy. It seems so easy what he does. It all just flows, and it's so funny, and it just seems that the writing is just beautiful. And you know, it couldn't have been that easy. It's just, there's really no one like him. Of course, you and I are the only ones who read him under the age of 85.
If George Tattersfield's in here, George is a big, I think he's coming over to help later. He's
Yeah.
the third person under 80
Yes.
who reads him too.
Right.
So we can't recommend that highly enough. And well, I was thinking of Wodehouse and I was thinking of you, is that I imagine a lot of people think what you do is so easy and don't realize the talent, the hard work, the determination to create one unique, wonderful story after another, and that they
You're being too kind.
I'm not being too kind.
No,
I mean,
now you're embarrassing me.
Okay, I'm going to stop embarrassing.
That's too nice.
Stop
I'm sorry.
embarrassing.
That's too nice.
What question didn't I ask that you wanted me to ask? Not that everybody asks you, and you said, "Thank God she didn't ask me that." But what story or whatever?
No, this was terrific.
Oh, thank you.
This is very good.
Now
I
he's
enjoyed it.
embarrassing. What great story would
No.
you like to leave us with, or